bathtub meth impresario and professional hobo Steve Bannon gave an interview to The Economist this week in which he said Trump's going to get a third term. Trump 2028. Trump is going to be president in 2028. So people just ought to get accommodated to that. Steve Bannon is a human shitpost. He's just a shitpost as a person. He is just a shit disturber, lobbing poo grenades everywhere he goes. But he has mastered the ability to do things and say things like this with tremendous confidence. Sounding as though he possesses a great deal of intelligence, which he actually does. He's a very smart guy. But he's just a human shitpost. I mean, that's what he is. The editor-in-chief asked about the 22nd Amendment, which says you don't get to do that. Steve Bannon replies, there's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we will lay out what the plan is, but there's a plan, and President Trump will be president in 2028. Well, first of all, he will be president in 2028 because that's when the 2028 election happens. The new president will be inaugurated on January 20th, 2029. So he's right on that part. Donald Trump will be president during 2028 because that's the last year of his term. However, his statement that Trump is going to get a third term, he doesn't say how. And I've read a couple of articles by some of these right-wing folks who take great pleasure in saying that the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution, which came into being after Franklin Delano Roosevelt served 4 terms as president, the 22nd Amendment starts out by saying that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And they put first of all, I've heard Steve Bannon make 2 arguments on this. He says that language that I just read, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, he says that means consecutive terms. You can't be elected as president more than 2 terms consecutively, which the amendment doesn't say, doesn't allude to that, doesn't imply it, doesn't lead one to infer that the word consecutive has anything to do with anything in this amendment. However, Bannon has also focused on the 5th word. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Well, how did LBJ first become president? He occupied the office of the President of the United States and was not elected to that position. He gained that position after the assassination of JFK Jr., or JFK, sorry. JFK, in 1963 or 64, whenever that was. And so they focus on, and they've come up with all kinds of wild scenarios by which Donald Trump can occupy the office of the presidency for a 3rd term without having been elected to a 3rd term, because the Constitution, 22nd Amendment, prevents a person from being elected more than twice. And so they're like, well, he could be vice president and J.D. Vance could be president, and then J.D. Vance could resign. As if J.D. Vance would ever do that. You can't force someone to resign the presidency. But I think there's also language in the Constitution that would prevent Trump from being vice president because he's ineligible to be president. But think how fucking hilarious that would be. Think if that was their plan. And let's say that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance run in 2028 with J.D. Vance as president and Donald Trump as vice president. And then J.D. Vance gets inaugurated and is like, no, I'm not going to resign. I like this job. I'm going to stay. And then Donald Trump is just stuck as vice president for 4 years, just throwing a fucking temper tantrum, overseeing construction of his ballroom, which J.D. Vance could unilaterally rename the J.D. Vance Ballroom at the White House, and Donald Trump would just have to suck on it. They've also said that they could run two different candidates for president and vice president, and then if those two candidates win, then Republicans in the House could appoint Donald Trump as Speaker of the House, and then get both of those people to resign, and then Donald Trump could move up and be president without having been elected as president. Again, it's like Steve Bannon is an absolute consummate bullshit artist. He is a never-ending fountain of bullshit, but he says it with great confidence, and he says things intelligently, with clarity, and it's no wonder that guy has the podcast audience that he does, because he speaks with authority. He speaks with authority. He speaks with a tremendous amount of intelligence, but everything he says is just complete and utter bullshit.